Hey everybody, my name is Strider, and I've been playing Magic for I don't know years now. I guess Shadowmoor was about when I started, and I've taken a couple breaks here and there, but I've been playing for a while. I mostly play limited, um, but I do play a lot of Magic Duels, and I've really been thinking about making some Magic Duels content because I don't see that much of it. I see some, and there's some good stuff out there, but yeah, I don't know. I just thought maybe I'd jump in and try this out. Just like I said, I watch a lot of Magic streams and I see like a lot of people play Magic online, but you don't see too much Magic Duel stuff, like I said. So I thought maybe I'd start making it. And today I just want to talk about a deck that I don't see as much of now, but it's still really good. It definitely can hang with just about anything. It's also really good if, like me, for example, I have all of the Origins packs, but I don't yet have the everything from BFZ, so I'm still like kind of fitting pieces here and there. And that deck that we're going to talk about is, as you can see on the screen, is Green Black Elves. So let's take a look at the deck. Before I start, I will say I'll post a link to this deck on Tapped Out, so you guys can see it there. And it's just, I feel like it's just easier to visualize the whole deck on Tapped Out than it is here, because you'd have to like watch certain points of the video and figure out how many of X I have, and just terrible. So I'll just put it up on Tapped Out. So let's just kind of go through some of the card choices here. I think I guess we'll just go through them all. Here we got Bone Splinters. I don't love Bone Splinters just as a card, like as just a pure power level thing, but it is surprisingly decent in this deck. You don't have a lot of ways to kill things, and I like having something that does, and it's so efficient, mana efficient at least. The only reason I really run it in here over other cards, removal, it's just because of how much disposable bodies you have lying around, like Elvish Visionary. This guy makes tokens. Sometimes you're willing to sacrifice something like this because it already did its job. It killed that enchantment. Something like this makes just an endless stream of tokens. So you just have a lot of bodies. So I think it just kind of uniquely fits in this deck. I see people run it in other decks, and I guess in like there's that Green Black Sacrifice deck that I see sometimes. It's okay in there, but really I think Bone Splinters is best here. And I guess that deck. I see it sometimes in like Blue Black, and it's like, no, you don't want to run it there. Dwynen's Elite is just the best aggressive 2-drop we have. It can go pretty wide. Obviously, I guess it's mainly a 3-drop because really you don't play it until after you have something down. Really, you'll play it. Don't get me wrong. If you have nothing to do on turn 2, you just play this. Like, please do that. Like, please just play this on turn 2 if you have nothing else to do. Ideally, I guess you'd want to go like Elvish Visionary into it. And then you're sitting there with 4 power on turn 3. You're feeling pretty good. You're pretty wide. That's a good defensive and offensive in some scenarios start. Elvish Visionary, we run it. It's a good 2-drop. It's an elf. It does a lot of little things in this deck that I think just kind of add up over, say, that gate creeper vine, that O2 that gets a land. I don't think you should run that in this deck. I just don't think you have the room for it. I think Elvish Visionary just fits that slot and does so much better. Like, it enables this, it helps this, it helps this, it's good with this. It's like it just does enough little things better to, I think, justify its inclusion over the gate creeper vine. Evolutionary Leap. I will say that Evolutionary Leap is pretty bad in some matchups. You don't want it against red. You don't really want it against ramp. You don't really want it against I guess that's it, really. Yeah, it's good in the mirror. It's probably the most important card in the mirror, just because you could just start going so wide and getting so much value. I guess the most important card in the mirror is maybe the Planeswalkers. But this card's very good against any type of slow game where you're not really trying to be like super aggressive. It's excellent against control because it just turned off all the removal. Like, they remove your dude, you're like, whatever, sack it. Now you're down a card. Like, they're down a card, you're up a card. just super good at that. And also a lot of the blue-black control decks, unless they're splashing green, like I have a blue-black control deck where I splash green, mainly so I have an efficient way to answer enchantments. But yeah, unless they are, which I don't see a ton of blue-black control with a way to deal with enchantments, this is just like a permanent just headache for them. They can't beat it a lot of times. Liliana is one of the few cards I have in here just as like a power level reason. It's obviously good with Evolutionary Leap, and you're also willing to sacrifice a lot of these just tokens as like chump blockers and stuff to flip your Liliana. But I mean, there are cards that synergize better. Like there's the 3/1 that makes them discard a card. There's other elves. There's like some 2-drops here. But Liliana I just think is good enough, and it just kind of fits that I want to grind you out theme that Elves does. Nissa, I mean, maybe the most powerful elf in the game probably is. Just, Planeswalker allows you to attack from an angle that you sometimes can't. Lets you get that incremental advantage. It's just a good card. This card's good for a couple reasons in this deck. Number one, it's an elf, and it likes you having a lot of elves, which you're going to do in this deck. It's also one of the few ways we have to deal with flyers. So, I mean, there's that. We need ways. Sometimes they play Alhammarret or something, and you just need to get this thing into a 5/5 and kill it. So, what else? The other thing about this deck is it's one of the few ways we can actually go tall. We go wide pretty well, but it's pretty rare that we can just really like have giant threats. I mean, we do have a couple you'll see at the end, but this is just another way we can attack them, because if they can deal with us going wide, well, a lot of times if you can deal with going wide, it means you're not super well suited to go to dealing with going tall. It just Reclamation Sage is just another elf that is a great way to deal with enchantments and artifacts that you see every once in a while. Just it is what it is. Shaman of the Pack is kind of a win condition, kind of just another dude that helps turn on your elves. But yeah, it's really nice when the game goes long and then you just drain them for 10 and then attack for the rest or something. Dwynen obviously going to be in here. It's an elf lord. It makes all your elves better. It's great against like any type of aggressive deck and flyers, because it blocks their flyers and it allows you to start gaining life when you attack. Just a great card. Liliana or Lana Huntmaster, kind of just another win condition for the deck. Just really allows you to go wide. You just start casting stuff. The great thing is too, like control decks and stuff can't really let you untap with it. They have to kill it before you untap, because it's a cast trigger. So like they can't, like let's say you cast this spell the turn after you cast this spell. Well, the trigger still happens. Like even if they kill this while this is on the stack, just because it's a cast trigger. Or if they counter this, for example, it still counts the trigger. So it's just a way to just keep gaining that advantage. What else? Yeah, it's just a good win condition. Llanowar Empath, maybe the weakest card in the deck. I've been thinking about what that is, and I think it might just be this card. But I mean, it is a 2/2. It replaces itself. It's an elf. It's fine. I don't know what exactly I'd run over it. I could see maybe even just running something like this over it for curve reasons. But we do have a lot of 3s as well. Like if we look, we have 10 3s and so I don't know. It's close. I could see running something like this even for those aggressive decks, or I don't know. But this has been going okay. We'll think about that. Gitleaf Winnower, just a solid elf. Just another, it's a pretty efficient beater. You get a 4/3 body, plus you're probably killing something. I mean, sometimes you're just killing their stupid Gate Creeper Vine, but I mean, it's something. Also an elf, just good. Obnix is kind of another win condition if things go long. Gives us another way to kill something, which is kind of important. And can just kind of win the game on his own if left unchecked. And another thing too that's great about this deck is very good at protecting Planeswalkers. You have so many dudes that unless they can just kill it, or they catch you in a spot where you don't have this or this, and just can kill you with flyers. Very good at protecting Planeswalkers. So a lot of times you'll end up with a board style, cast this, and just say go and just slowly kill them. Woodland Bellower, better in this deck than most green decks that I ran him in, just because he kind of is like the toolbox that he enables is just so much better in this deck than a lot of other decks. So the three things that are important that he can get are these three cards right here. Because in many different scenarios, you're like, oh, I need a way to deal with a flyer. I'll go get this guy. I need a way to deal with an enchantment. I'll get this guy. You know, the game, I have him at 6 and I have 10 elves out. Okay, let's go get this guy. Like, there's just so many scenarios that he is able to tutor up something useful. And I mean, even if he can't, you know, I mean, this guy is probably going to be fine anyways, just because he's going to be like a 6/6 or something. Or, I mean, if you really need to, you could tutor up these, but I rarely do. Lastly, the last non-land card in this deck is Gaia's Revenge. Just kind of another way to be finisher, just another threat that Control has a trouble dealing with. Yeah, can just end the game in a hurry too. Like, that's kind of important too against, like, especially red decks, like aggressive decks with reach. If you somehow get to this point, it's good to have a way to just kill them really fast before they can draw their bird spell to finish you off or whatever. The mana, you can see we're pretty heavily tilted towards green. I run, yeah, I mean, this is a pretty standard, I would say. I mean, you're almost always going to run this, or the max check lands that you can in your colors. I have this as a split, mainly because I just, 4 Evolving Wilds sends your deck for lands a little too much. We do need lands. Plus, I find I have like enough double cost stuff. Sometimes I actually just want a land that can produce green and black. You know, at the same time, because let's say I have a hand with this guy and this guy, you know, I kind of want to be able to cast both those on time. And let's say I'm in a spot where I can either, you know, get a forest or a you know, if I have a fetch land and I can only get one of the, like, I'm only gonna be able to cast one of these, that sucks. So, you know, just kind of important to have that option. I'm thinking about maybe even taking another one out for another one. I don't know. We'll see. Lastly, I just kind of want to talk about a couple of the matchups. Your worst matchup is probably green-red. They just go a green-red ramp. They just go so far over the top of what you can really deal with. Like an Ulamog is it's so hard to deal with that. In fact, I don't think you have anything in your deck that can actually deal with it. No, you don't. Yeah, green red ramp, unfortunately that's the most popular deck probably at the higher levels, and it crushes you most of the time. Sometimes you can get like aggressive draws and just beat them down beforehand. But again, it, like, especially if you can go like, you know, this guy into this guy into this guy and just beat them down. It happens, but I would say in general, your deck's just a little too slow, and I'd say that's true for any mid-range deck. A lot of times the way to beat these kind of grindy mid-range decks that we have here are just to go over the top of them, and that deck certainly does. Red, like mono-red aggro, is a pretty good matchup. Don't draw this card. Just learn not to draw this card against red. It's bad. I mean, obviously I know you can't help it if you do draw it, but it's just, they don't care about this card. But yeah, I mean, you have like 7 2s here that are good against them. You've got some life link. You've got more ways to gain life. You've got a ton of blockers. I'd say red is maybe like 55-45 in your favor, just because, I mean, sometimes they just run your ass over. What else? If you want like an actual matchup number, it's probably like 45-55 in favor of green-red ramp, that matchup. Maybe even 40-60, but that's pretty bad, so that might not be true. They do have a lot of cards that are good against you, though. Like From Beyond is absurd against you. They just make a bunch of blockers and you can't win. But you can kill it, which is nice with this card. Anyways, so what else do we have? What's another popular? Blue-black. Blue-black is a pretty good matchup. You kind of fold to Wrath. Like, if they just languish you, you're probably dead. But you have a lot of play against them in this card, and most of your cards actually replace themselves. So, like this, even this replaces itself as long as they don't counter it. Like, you go get a land. This replaces itself. This makes 2 bodies a lot of times they have to deal with. So, really, I would say they need languish or they're going to lose against you most of the time. And if you have this, you're probably, I don't know, 60%, 70%, 70% to win the game if you go that on turn 2 and it sticks. I mean, it is so hard for them to win. What other matchups do you see? Sometimes you see like red-green landfall. They can go a little big, so that can be tough if you stumble. But I think that matchup's fine. Yeah, I don't know. I'd say those are all the most popular. I mean, even red-green landfall is kind of like a fringe deck. But yeah, I mean, I'd say those are the 3 most popular decks: is red, blue-black control, and green-red ramp. Green-red ramp probably being the most popular, followed by red, followed by blue-black. And I think you have a decent matchup against 2 of them. And this deck also, another good thing about this deck is that it's just good against... Oh, there is one other deck, I guess. Hold on, before I go into that. Blue-red artifacts. This deck, it's kind of funny to see these 2 play out because they played out for so long in Origins, and neither of them got a ton of stuff to really play with in these new sets. But I would say I think blue, I don't know. It's like 50-50, I really think. It just depends on their draw, your draw. I would say if they don't draw Thopter Spy Network, you're pretty heavily favored. Plus, I see a lot of blue-red artifact players that I feel like play just bad builds of it. And so I feel like I win against that a lot. But really, those board cards in that matchup are, let's see, this card, obviously. Let's see. This card's very good against them. And the Flyer Guy. You really need to draw those cards if you want to win, because they'll just fly over you and kill you some percentage of the time. And this is just a great way to deal with their Thopter Spy Networks. I've also seen when they just play like a ton of artifacts early, like just like equipment and crap that doesn't affect the board. Like I've seen them play like I just played against a guy the other day. He went like his only creature he played in like the first 4 turns was that 2/3, the guy that pumps all your artifacts, and he played like 3 artifacts, like 3 just Sigil of Valor and just like garbage artifacts that don't do anything. When they play like that, you can really get aggressive and punish them. Like you can just kill them really quickly. I think faster than they actually think that you can. Or you can set yourself up in such a demanding board position that they just cannot possibly win. So again, I think that matchup's pretty close. They can fly over you though, so be careful. Yeah, I think that's about... Oh, and another thing, like I was going to say, this deck's also pretty good against just random decks. Like, there's a lot of just randoms. You play, you'll play, Black-White Life Gain, or, I just played against, Blue-White Enchantments. You just play against random. And I'd say this deck has game against a lot of those, because just the power level of this deck is pretty high, and the synergy is pretty high. And it's just such a linear deck that you're just in doing your game plan and just saying, can you beat this? So, yeah... don't play against Wraths. Don't play against Green Red Ramp, and this deck is great. Yeah, so I'm just going to put this video up. Again, I'll link the tapped out deck in the comments or in the whatever the description of the video. And yeah, and I'll also post a game of me playing this deck shortly as well. So thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, I don't know, what do the YouTube people say, like the video at the bottom or whatever. Yeah, just let me know what you guys think. If you want more content like this, cool. I'll probably keep making it and just kind of see if there's any interest in it at all. Yeah, all right, thanks, guys. Bye.